Lars Von Trier's 2013 film Nymphomaniac follows Joe, a nymphomaniac who renounces love and pain and chooses a life of sexual exploration. In this presentation, I will examine themes in the film such as power, death, love, pain, and empathy, and how these themes are related to both sex and nymphomania within the context of this film. The film is told in a series of flashbacks narrated by the story's main character, Joe, who is found beaten and laid out in an alley by a middle-aged bachelor named Seligman. Joe refuses an ambulance, but when she requests tea and milk, Seligman takes her to his place, offers her a warm bed, and, like a repentant sinner in a confessional, she tells him her life story and how he came to find her in an alley. Early in her story, she describes how she became aware of her sexuality and her power over men. As a teenager, Joe and a friend she refers to as B take a train ride and wager a bag of candy to see who can fuck the most men. Joe wins the contest by giving a blowjob to a married man who is trying to save his load for his wife, who had called him home after being told by her doctor that she can become pregnant. Next, Joe manipulates a series of lovers into believing they are special. At this stage, Joe is a nymph, or according to Seligman's analogy, she is in the early stage of her development. She becomes aware of her sexuality as a child, and by the time she is a teen, she becomes aware of her power over men. Like her mother, Catherine, Joe is selfish and cold and is as disconnected from her lovers as her mother is from her father. By dividing and subdividing herself among many lovers, Joe is able to stay detached and avoid the one thing she is afraid of that can cause her pain, and that's love. But in doing this, she loses the capacity to empathize with those who are hurt by her selfishness. This system describes her mother, Catherine, whose coldness protects her from grief when her husband dies of dementia, as is evidenced by her coldness in that scene. Even though Joe despises her mother, they are alike in that they detach themselves from others emotionally to escape pain. Joe is both of her parents who sit at opposite extremes. Her mother is unfeeling. Her father, who teaches her through his love of trees, is sensitive. Her mother is indifference. Her father is love. When Joe's father dies, she loses the ability to feel anything from sex. His death and the death of his aspect of her persona leaves only her mother, whom she refers to as a cold bitch. In this film, Joe's nymphomania and her father's dementia are metaphors for her losing her ability to feel. In one scene, she has so many sex partners that she has to develop a system to remember them. This also occurs when Jerome leaves the printing company and Joe develops a system to remember him by, piecing together various body parts from different men to remember him, eventually forgetting him and reverting back to her old behavior with even more intensity than before. The story of the ash tree is Joe. Her father tells her that when the ash tree leaves fall in the winter, its buds are black because it dipped its fingers in the ashes. In the film, winter begins with the death of her father. The fallen leaves are the feelings in her that die with him, and the ashes are the forbidden fruit of sexual addiction. His death reveals Joe as she really is, afraid. This is what motivates her sexuality prior to her father's death, the desire for more intense sunsets and pleasure without the pain of love. The day that Joe's father dies, the pleasure she gets out of sex also dies. Remember, these sensations are connected to her father, and him dying represents a part of herself dying. This explains the orgasm she has when her father dies. This orgasm symbolizes the death of her capacity to get the same pleasure out of life and sex that she does prior to his death. Jo falls in love only one time in the film, and this is when she sees order in the clutter on Jerome's desk. She tells Seligman that love distorts things and that love is humiliating after a period in which he humiliates her for not letting him fill her up. Jerome, that is. Besides using sex to avoid pain, Jo also uses it to avoid the powerlessness of love and also to overcome the powerlessness of being a woman in a man's world. Sex without love makes her powerful over men. Ultimately, the film seems to suggest that women without emotions are superior to men, which might be true. Even though Jo's mother, Catherine, is cold and selfish, Jo's father also teaches her a kind of selfishness in tuning into herself, which is a form of autoeroticism. Her many lovers are dehumanized, cataloged, and diminished by the sizes and shapes of their penises. Families destroyed by her selfishness are regarded as collateral damage. Neither does she have any qualms about lying and making her lovers feel like they are the only one, telling them that they are the first to make her come, even though she has no feelings for them whatsoever. By the end of the film, Jo is completely numb, setting up the second movie in her journey to recapture the pleasure of having sex. Thanks for watching this short analysis of Lars Von Trier's film Nymphomaniac, starring Charlotte Gainsbourg as Jo and Stellan Skarsgard as Seligman. Thanks for watching this video again, and I will see you next time.